It's difficult.
Well, you can do it all day long. It's difficult to actually get a case thrown out because they did contradict the law. Well, so what? If you don't like it, appeal it. But I noticed early on that it's very embarrassing to contradict yourself, especially when you're in a room full of people who respect you to a point that they will murder on your orders. And what I mean by murder, that they will use physical violence against you. The police officers or whoever the security is there, given the order, they will attack you.
Yeah.
There's no thought involved. They just follow the judge's orders. And I've had many, many experiences with police officers. And it's not an attack on police officers, but I've had many, many personal experiences where police officers have told me flat out, I follow the judge's orders. Yeah. It's not my job to question what the judge says. I just do what he tells me. One of the things I discuss in the book is that some of the most egregious, heinous acts that you can imagine have been justified because they were according to the law.
Legal.
It was legal.
Of course, the thing about it, though, is that a lot of things that's happening here now that is not legal is contrary to both what it says in the statutes, in the codes, and the court rules.
That's correct, and one of the fallacies I bring up in the book is that people claim, politicians, and you can read it in books and history books, and you read about it in schools, that, oh, the Constitution created a limited government of limited powers, and that if it goes beyond the scope of the Constitution, it's illegal or unconstitutional. Well, that is a lie. And I'll explain why. Because one of the most important phrases, the only really important phrase in the Constitution, is the necessary and proper clause. And a lot of people like to say, hey, let's get back to the common law. Let's get back to that. Well, one of the things that comes out of the common law, which the Constitution is supposed to be read in light of, is a phrase called necessitas non habet legem, which most people have no idea what this means. Well, what it means is necessity has no law.
Okay.
Oh, what is it? Wow. So from the common law, which people think is a great thing, we have this rule of necessity. And it means that if some bureaucrat, whoever's doing it, let's say the bulldozing of a church, if someone deems it necessary, the one who ordered the bulldozing, oh, it was necessary, oh, it's good to go. And
almost as good as national security.
Yeah. Yeah, and that fact, that's kind of two lies.
Yeah.
It's very, you have to look at politics, and politics is usually the only profession, if you will, where you can have two words, a two-word phrase, be two lies. One, that there's a nation, and two, that they have a duty to secure you or to provide protection.
Yeah.
So what I go through in the book is, one, there's no nation. And we can get into the details of that.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why there's no nation, why we can prove that there's no nation, is the security issue.
Okay.
What's the job of politicians? Why do we have bureaucrats? Why do we have government? Why do we have a so-called state? What is the purpose? What is it? Why is it there? Well, if we go to the Declaration of Independence, it tells us, and it says that governments were established or instituted to protect life, liberty, and property, or the pursuit of happiness. And that this is supposed to be by consent. And if we listen to what politicians tell us, what a citizen and a state and all these things are, we'll examine the citizen for a moment. And most people just figure, I was born here, I'm a citizen, but they really don't go into exactly what it is. Well, what is a citizen? What makes me a citizen and somebody who crosses over from Mexico or Canada, or comes in from some other country, what separates them from me? And a citizen, as told by the Supreme Court in Laurie versus United States, and I'm not going to bog us down in too much of the legalese, they say that it is a member of a body politic who owes allegiance in return for a duty of protection. And Laurie uses very specific words and says that these are reciprocal obligations. Now, lawyers will know, and anybody familiar with contract law, they're talking about a contract. In fact, in the Dartmouth College case and many other cases, the Supreme Court has ruled, and never been overturned, that citizenship is a contractual relationship.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a duty of allegiance in return for a duty of protection. They're reciprocal. Okay? They work together hand in hand. You do this for me, I do that for you. Now, we know allegiance is the only thing that ties you to their so-called law. You agree to follow their laws in return for the protection.
So, with other words, there is no citizens.
Well, there's got to be a reason why.
Yeah.
You don't want to, I don't want to just, you just don't, well, give me some evidence, give me some reason why you're saying this. Well, we know if a citizen says, I renounce my allegiance, he's not entitled to any protection. Right. He's on his own. This is pretty common. People expatriate, they do it all the time. They come from Canada and they become citizens. They have to or abrogate their allegiance and to the foreign potentiate or king or minister, whatever. Well, what I did was I looked at the other side. Well, what if the other side of a contract is this reciprocal obligation situation? What if the other side says, you know what, I'm going to cut you off. I'm not going to protect you. In fact, even if I say I'm going to protect you, I'm not going to allow you to hold me accountable if I don't. I'm going to say sovereign immunity, that's right. I have sovereign immunity, so even if I did have a duty, a technical duty to protect you, for which you pay taxes for, if I don't protect you and I breach that duty, you're not going to be able to hold me accountable. See, it's similar to a so-called congressman. A so-called congressman can never be held accountable for anything he does in office to his so-called constituents. So he really doesn't represent them.
That's right.
Okay, so in this particular case, what I saw, and there was a case here out of Arizona, went to the Arizona Supreme Court. There was I believe it was out of Hill County, and a man owned a jewelry store. And what he did was he contracted with off-duty Hill County sheriff's deputies to protect his store. The alarm goes off, you guys show up, and you protect my store. Well, they didn't fulfill their duty. And his alarm went off. He lost $250,000. I believe it was about $250,000 worth of merchandise. This is in the mid-50s. I believe it was mid-50s. Well, he sued the sheriff's deputies, these off-duty officers. And believe it or not, the Superior Court said, their lawyers, I guess, filed a motion to dismiss for failure to state a claim, because a cause of action is a breach of a duty that results in loss, harm, or injury. And they said, you have not pled a duty. They don't have a duty to protect.
That's right, I was going at you.
So this guy figured, wait a minute, no, I guess, no, he appealed this. He said, no, this can't be right. Well, it gets to the Arizona Supreme Court, and in a brief moment of lucidity and common sense and reason, which really hasn't returned too many times, the Supreme Court said, you're right. As sheriff's deputies on the job, there's no duty to protect him or anyone else. But this was different. You had contractual obligation. You had a private contract. You were not on the job. You were not Gila County Sheriff's deputies. You had a contractual obligation, and you breached it, and you cost this guy $250,000. And they sent it back to the Superior Court for trial. And I looked at that and I said, wait a minute. If a citizen is only a citizen because he owes a duty of allegiance in return for a duty of protection, and they're openly and notoriously saying, we don't have a duty to protect you, even though the Constitution says in Article 1, Section 2, the only purpose is to protect. Okay. There's no duty to protect. There's no duty of allegiance. Well, if there's no duty to protect and no duty of allegiance due, then there are no citizens.
And because there's no contract.
Right. And if there are no citizens, there's no body politic. And if there's no body politic, there's no state. If there's no state, there's no United States. There's no nation. So basically what you have is 280 million people who are just people.
And treated like we are because we don't know any better.
We're treated like we are because we've been bought into this public relations scheme, this matrix, if you will, that has been forced on us. And I spoke to some people yesterday on a radio show, and they, well, what's wrong with our reality? You know, why can't we're happy with our reality. I said, well, you know, I'm happy with my reality. And I don't have a problem with the reality anyone takes. You can sit in your house and think you're King Henry. But the moment You pick up a gun
Yeah.
and you use a gun or any other kind of force